Hey everybody, Leanna here. You may have seen during the week that Song made her goal on possibly Friday. Yeah, Friday. So thanks everyone for that. The two maps for future volumes of Calidus Chronicles will be made. And more importantly than that, thank you for the support you've shown in Song. As you know, YouTube does not pay very much in monetization, and things like this help a great deal. Developing her as a writer and as an artist, and we do not take this for granted. So, as you enjoy the final episode of Two Women Talking on Toxic Relationships, thank you. Thank you very much for your support. It means a lot to both of us.
I suppose that's true.
That to me sounds the same as my sister in the kitchen holding dishes so she doesn't have to do them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is something, because I think men feel the shame of that more than women who are grown up to think somebody's going to take care of you.
I mean, I have seen people, especially, back on Tumblr,
Yeah,
where it was like figuring out how to live on welfare without actually doing anything. So, like, I've seen people who do that by choice.
Obviously there are con artists out there. I just know I know a few people that are on benefits, and it is an intergenerational thing. It is very, very hard to get out of the poverty trap, because let's face it, in this day and age, and this is why the whole men wanting really, really, really traditionally attractive women when they're the guys that song is talking about really strike me, because let's face it, that woman is a status symbol. You can tell we're almost at the age where it's like commoners, and you could tell a commoner from a noble person by their teeth.
Yeah.
The amount of cosmetic procedures that the children of the rich get by the time they reach age of majority is staggering. And I'm not talking just braces. I'm talking like nose jobs. I'm talking like ear tucks, boob jobs, a ton of stuff. There is a real visual difference between people who grew up with less and people who grew up with more. And you have to ask yourself if you are, and this goes for men and women, though, let's face it, it's way more, it's evening out with all these crazy diets and stuff like that for men. But if you are, really ask yourself if you are desiring that type of person because it is status, or because if that is actually what you find beautiful. And if that is just what you're into, okay, you're vanilla, you're basic, cool. The people, I accept that people like that exist. But I really don't think, if we were actually able to brain scan what people actually do respond to in terms of desire,
it would be very different.
Yeah, I really don't think it's the skinny white girl with the baby voice. I just don't. And maybe I'm biased because that does nothing for me.
I think it is a level of socialization.
I think so, because it just, and some people are, and then I go, okay, some people are into it, but okay, yeah, that guy's an egomaniac, and yeah, that guy's in it for the wrong reasons, and that guy's looking to prove something. And those, it's the way I feel about guys now who date Taylor Swift. Why do you think you're the exception? At this point, she's a known commodity. And that's why I'm trying to be generous, because I suspect women like that are very charming, and they're very good at explaining their reasons.
Well, even like this Travis Kelce relationship, where his parents are just glowing about her. And they're like, oh, she's so great. And his dad is going on about how humble she is. And like, it seems like someone forgot to tell her she's a superstar. And I'm like,
okay, but people are great at keeping up that act in the short term.
Yeah. And I'm just like, why are you supporting this? And you're not telling your son, run?
Well,
like, look, if they end up being together for the next 50 years and they're very happy together,
that would
that's
be a great
great.
ending. That would be a great ending. It would be great if everybody was wrong about her.
It would. But you know what? It's also just, he's a celebrity, but he's not a competition for her.
Right.
And he's fine. He seems to be fine with her being more famous. So you know what? Maybe their toxic traits will just work together.
Okay, but she is high maintenance and cannot be alone. And what happens when her tour schedule clashes with his game schedule?
Yeah. So we will see. And
yeah.
It probably doesn't help that, people are blaming her when he loses a game.
Well, that's not fair. I
No.
mean, the interest, it's very interesting to see with the whole Taylor Swift phenomenon, it happening to male romantic partners, because like normally with boy bands, everybody hates on the girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
The whole parasocial weird thing that teenage girls do.
Wanting them to be available.
Yeah, but the fact that they do it when it's a woman as well, like when it's Taylor Swift or when it's who the heck was it? Cardi B's fans were getting up in her face about things. Hooking up with her baby daddy New Year's or something like that. They were complaining that she didn't tell them.
That's so weird.
What the hell? This is a singer, not your bestie. Like, what is going on here? It's people want 100% guarantees. They walk in, they want to be able to curate other people the way they curate their music and their TV shows and their social media feeds and the fan art smut that they subscribe to, and you can't curate reality that way. Try stuff on and see how it fits. And if it doesn't work out, nobody failed. It's nobody's fault. It just wasn't for you.
It's like what I was saying before with, when you go on a date, and a first date especially, and it's like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm not. If that doesn't work, cool. No harm done.
Yep.
Have a great life.
Yeah. And I mean, I hear a lot of, it's weird because there are guys I work with who go to matchmakers and dating coaches, and they actually tell them you need to lower your standards. And my jaw drops. I said, don't. Those standards are there for a reason. Because if they lower their standards, then yes, okay, the dating service or the matchmaker has a success, but that person is going to resent the lowering. And long term, it's not going to lead to happiness.
Yeah.
Instead, it's what I said earlier. Is this really important to you, or does this represent something that is important to you? Because guys, if you want great conversation, the gal with the fringe lashes and the bling and the perfectly coiffed hair and the $300 shoes probably isn't going to get you sparkling conversation. Just saying, you may find the one in a million where that's so, but odds are she's going to be shallow and mercenary.
Yep.
So why are you really, deciding to date her? And women have to do the same thing. Women are a bit more, the thing with women, it's not the looks, right? It's not the looks. We've had the conversation about, no, it's Thor's personality that that women like, not the way he looks, though. Okay.
In many cases, the looks help.
Women who are into that looks help. Again, I don't get it. I understand it is so. But the with women, it is the sensitive thing that, are you really looking for a guy who is in touch with his feelings? Or are you looking for a guy who is going to put up with your bullshit?
It's a bit late to bring this up because we've been at this for a while, but I was thinking about, I know you hate Drake, but I'm going to bring Drake up. Sorry.
Go for it.
It's the contrast of Taylor Swift, who wants the fairy tale and to be rescued and swept off her feet, but she also wants the constant excitement. She wants James Dean. You listen to enough of her music, she wants James Dean.
Yep.
But then Drake, who his whole career, there's been this subtext, not even subtext, of he wants a woman who will save him from being an asshole.
That's why I hate Drake.
Yeah, and it's gotten worse over the years because it's just, oh, I'm so busy hustling, and I've got all these cheap hoes on the side, but I want a good woman to come in, and it's not an uncommon fantasy.
Yeah,
I've met men who it's like they're waiting. They hang out with all these cheap floozies, I'm sorry, and these shallow women.
Yeah.
But they're waiting for the day that, wifey type will just walk in.
And the thing that's so toxic about that is the wifey types see the cheap hose and go, next. Because you're right. That's why I can't stand Drake.
Yeah, and it is something that I think hip hop has really perpetuated. It's like, oh yeah, surround yourself with.
Well, hip hop got it from rock music, in fairness, but
true.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, that's the whole Coretta thing, and why people keep telling Jonathan Majors to just stop. Because it's like, you dated a white girl who's a dancer when you wanted Coretta Scott King. What? And I feel bad for people trashing Megan Good now over that, because Megan Good has her own career and she's older than him. Wait,
is that the girlfriend?
Yeah, that's the new girlfriend.
The new one.
Yeah, and he called her a Coretta in the interview he gave, and the internet got very toxic on that. And
I don't even blame them, honestly.
On the one hand, I cringed notice I use cringed as a verb, not a noun, but I cringed when they involved her. I wish they had not done that. The interview itself was using her as a prop. But I am, it's a mixed message to say, want a woman with substance. And then when a guy says, I want a woman with substance, they say, you're doing it wrong. And they say, Bernice King is saying my mother was not a prop. I really don't think that is what he intended to say. I do understand why people heard it that way.
The way I'm hearing it, it sounds like another status thing where it's like he's been taught this is the kind of woman he should have at his side if he wants to be an important man.
But my thought is, okay, first of all, Martin Luther King cheated on Coretta. Michelle Obama, I think, is actually a closer comparison one, because the Obamas are media phenomenon as much as being president. Even then, it's like women have to be major celebrity good looking, or they have to be super overachieving civil rights leaders who then marry somebody who's an even bigger civil rights leader. It's like whatever happened to, I want someone who accepts me and understands me but has their own stuff too. And I think that was what he was trying to say, but because he's got that Yale bullshit, everything was metaphor.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that there is some crossed wires and mixed messages.
I think he's being really badly advised personally, or he's not listening.
Yeah.
But I mean, that I've heard guys grandstand that way. It's the Drake thing. Like, I want a wifey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to date the ones who are not that. They're good in the meantime until better shows up. And it's like, you don't get better if better is not worth waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
That's true with men. That's true with women. Like, yes, you do have to try people on and see if they fit, but own your choices,
Mm-hmm.
and own the fact that if you are going for that, what Drake considers a hoe. First of all, why are you referring to any woman that way? The way he talks about women in his songs is just revolting,
Yeah.
Just he's not a gangsta rapper who is producing that music for an audience who knows what it means. He is pop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's toxic.
I saw someone describe it as it's like he was on this career arc of the tragic character who was becoming a douchebag.
Yeah.
But the character arc is over now,
Yeah.
and he just is a douchebag.
Oh, but the thing is, he always was.
He always was.
You talk to anybody, he just ditched all his Toronto peeps when he took off. And that's a sign of character.
Well, they might have contradicted his story that he started from the bottom and now he's here.
Forest Hill ain't no bottom.
No.
But yeah, and that's the sort of, you're telling everybody who you are with that behavior. When you're on Twitter going, why don't those bitches like me? I want a girlfriend. You're showing everybody who you are.
And also, I just want to remind people, he was on Degrassi before his music career.
Yep.
This man has never known the bottom.
I got all my Drake dirt from Degrassi cast members. I did like indie wardrobe stuff. Like, I made costumes for like indie student films and things like that. I got all my Drake dirt from that. But yeah, and like you said so aptly, song is right again. Everybody has some toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does. Knowing the parts that are toxic is very important. So when you feel yourself needing that hit of crack, the plastic crack, when you feel yourself needing that hit, you can recognize it for what it is. We all have weaknesses. We all have vulnerabilities. That's what makes us human. Mm-hmm. And I do think that setting the example of, and I think that people jump from, I have things I need to work on, to I'm broken. Why would anybody want to be with me, a little too quickly? I'm going to be, doing content on that. But I do think the leap is made too quickly there.
I think it's like pottery, where when it's on the potter's wheel, it's soft and pliable.
Right.
And you work it into shape.
Right.
There is a big difference between I have things I need to work on,
right,
which is, you're still soft clay on the potter's wheel that is being molded and improved and shaped, versus you've already been dried out, put through the kiln and painted, and then you crack and break. Those are extremely different things.
Yeah, well, it's also the reality of,
that metaphor might make way more sense in my head.
No, it made sense. And I'm gonna extend that, because yes, the idea of molding clay, but the clay is more your story. It's more your life. You are the potter. You are choosing where your hands go. You may not quite know how the clay is going to react, but you're choosing to go there. And sometimes, yeah, you make a mess of it and you have to start over. Sometimes you overwork it and it dries out. And sometimes it turns out awesome and you can put it in the kiln, lock it in, and don't break it. Now that you've got it good, right?
Yeah.
The reason more and more I'm stepping away from the language of being broken is the psychology of broken is that you are something that needs an external thing to fix. You are the broken pot. Whereas actual healing, actually doing better, nobody can come along and fix you through a relationship. And if that's what you're looking for deep down, that's toxic. The work has to be internal. You can get support. You can have people who are good influences. You can have people who are bad influences. But at the end of the day, you fix you. You heal you. Nobody can do it for you. And as long as you're waiting for that shortcut, the break is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to drive more and more people away because you are trying to write that Taylor Swift song where you're making excuses instead of going, okay. And sometimes it can just be not effectively prioritizing. You know, if you want, if you want too many contradictory things, right? If you want a woman with a PhD and a successful business who spends 3 hours in the bathroom getting ready, you need to go live on a planet with a 36-hour day.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? Like that is just not something that actually exists. If you want the pretty girl, go out there and get the pretty girl. What is less important to you if you really want someone who is just very physically attractive? Because those women are high maintenance. And you got to be prepared to provide that maintenance if that's what you want. And if you look at a lot of very, very attractive women, they're not dating the super attractive guys. They're dating guys with money, like real money, like intergenerational money, because looking that way is expensive.
And that's why Amber Heard went out with Elon Musk.
Right. And after Johnny Depp, I mean, my God, she was so... And there's a certain thing where I understand why Johnny Depp didn't see her coming. Opportunistic infection. Sometimes it is, but you see the stuff, you see the interviews, like somebody's doing a documentary or something like that. And at least he's playing like he's not terribly bitter. And that's nice to see, even if it's bullshit. Like, at least he's trying to be... Civil. I mean, he's obviously done a lot of rehab and he's repeating what he's learned in rehab. But, there's a guy who is going to get called a wife beater for the rest of his life. Fairly or not.
Yeah.
And he's managing to keep his head up and go do his band and go make movies, and he's directing again, which is an absolute shocker because he said he was never going to do that again after he got booed out of Cannes. And so it's funny, like something really super horrible, worse than that, made him go back and try it again. And sometimes life works that way. But I do think that if one of the things that makes us really toxic is if we're so, first of all, if we have to dig deep and recognize, can I handle critique? Not necessarily criticism, but critique. Because what I find, like when I am very selective about the people I ask for feedback from. Yeah. I choose moderators for the Discord because you guys will tell me shit. I sent you a book forward and I sent that to one other person. And that was it, because you were going to identify certain things I would miss, and so would he. And then when you told me stuff, I listened and I applied it.
Yes.
This seems so simple. However, I find so many people, they ask for your feedback, you give it, and then they start arguing you and explaining. And it's like, okay, fine, you can give me all the explanations in the world, but you're not going to be there to explain it to your reader or your viewer. So this is a conversation you should be having with yourself, not with me. It doesn't change the note.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to figure out how to fix it, fine. But I'm not going to change my mind because there's a reason you did this. There are reasons it's not working.
Yeah.
And people can either choose to go, all right, that makes sense to me, or no, I see the point. There are reasons, you know, I think the reasons are more compelling than the change. But you got to own that. And then if, you know, you get hit with something when you release it because you ignored good advice, well, that's on you. And I do think truly toxic people, they jump to the justification and they forget they asked. You know, when you submit something for review, you have to take the bad with the good. And you can't expect the critic to love everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people who, you know, they get slaughtered in a review, but it's in a way, this is mainly with games, but film and TV as well. They get slaughtered in a review and they're happy because it was a fight they lost internally. And so now they can go to the person above them and go, you see? And so that's constructive, even though it's embarrassing that you lost that fight and you had to do something that people made a whole lot of fun of. But you're validated because you knew it was bad. You just lost the fight. And the problem with the toxicity in modern culture of one mistake, you know, I do think the only people who can really handle being very public now are people with a very strong narcissistic streak, because the criticism is so constant and so brutal, and in many cases so petty and unfair that you really can't listen. You'd become non-functional.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's too much. It's not, nobody's brain can handle that much. You suck. I don't care who you are. Like, narcissistic sociopaths don't respond to negative attention the same way, you know, somebody who isn't a narcissist does. So they get mad, but they're not soul wounded the same way. They're the only ones that can navigate that and not be beaten down by it. So if you're worried about the narcissist getting to the top, stop fueling the systems that allow them to thrive and everybody else gets brutalized and we all blame each other.
Yeah. In indie author communities right now, there is the repeated conversation of, well, some people are like, oh, if you don't like a book, you shouldn't leave a negative review at all. But one of the big things is don't tag authors in negative reviews. And I'm like, you know what? That is so sensible. I can't believe we have to have this conversation. Right. But even as I say that, I'm not surprised we have to have this conversation.
Well, you do, because people think they're subtweeting or they're going behind someone's back. And my thought is, no, you're allowed. It's amazing the people who link me to like subreddits of just hatred. And it's like, why are you linking me to this? Well, I thought you'd want to know. And I said, why? People have the right to their views. I don't need to see it. Well, don't you want to push back on it? It's like, no. These are people that have the wrong idea about me because they want to. And hating me brings community and happiness to that. Look, they're all coming together and they're mutual hatred of me. Let them have that.
Yeah. And, you know, I saw one other author who I quite like who said, look, you know, someone tagged me in a negative review and it was pretty clear that, you know, they just weren't the right audience for my book. So I just untagged myself and went about my day. And it's like, the thing is, artists tend to be very sensitive. So they do take a lot of reviews very personally.
And I do think that professional critics are very unprofessional sometimes in their criticism.
Well, I mean, this is like talking about the booktubers and book talkers and stuff. Bookstagram.
I think that I think writers should absolutely not watch that stuff.
Oh yeah,
because it is entertainment first, and people love the spilled tea, so it's gonna be savage.
Yeah, no, it's like when stuff like that. Of course, I want people to review Calidus Chronicles. If you've read the book, please go rate it and leave a review on Amazon, please. Um, but I want to get reviews, but at the same time, when they start popping up, I'm probably going to send them to other people and go, hey, can you watch this and let me know if it's safe for me to watch? And it's like, if there's some criticism and if there's, hey, this is how you could improve it, that's fine. I enjoy that. But, okay, if it's negative, well, I would probably be forewarned, and then I would watch it out of morbid curiosity anyway.
Well, that's also the thing where the pre-publication feedback, it's very important to have people who can prepare you for, okay, you've made certain choices in this story. This is what you can expect. Because if you know where the negatives are going to come from and they land, it's like, yep, that's a feature, not a bug. We don't want that person to like what I do.
Yeah.
And that can be, and that's where editors and managers and agents used to be so integral. Of course, publishing doesn't have the money to facilitate a proper system anymore, and so writers more and more are relying on beta readers and friends.
And the problem with that is, especially with friends,
well, you're shitting where you eat.
Yeah.
And you have to have, there are some times where you have to have the professional conversation. And that can be hard with friends, because if you're having the professional conversation with your friends, who do you go to digest the professional conversation?
Exactly.
Where you go blah, 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 blah. And then you realize, okay, that just stung. They were right. It's very hard. I mean, the way everything's been gutted makes publishing really, in a way, it's great because you can get your stuff out there and people can read it, and you're not at the mercy of the sending out the packages and, the slush pile and all that stuff.
Oh, we know Calidus probably would not have made it through the slush pile or any of that because of the formatting.
Well, it could, it's a question of, do you want to do major revisions to get published?
No.
Or do you just want to get it out there so that there's something with your name on it? It's out. Okay. Yep. We're moving on to the next one. And there's valid reasons to just put something out. I mean, look at Jim Butcher with the Dresden Files. The first book, not great. He says it himself.
Yeah.
But that tells me that this is a guy who's secure enough in the success he's had. You see authors that are comfortable with themselves, where it's like, yeah, that book, that was when I rushed out. I had to, I was just done with it. I was on a deadline. We've all done it. We've absolutely all put something out that wasn't our best because reasons.
It's like, being in indie author circles now and seeing people, it's like, oh, I'm writing my first book and I'm going to self-publish it. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it used to be common knowledge among writers, your first manuscript never sees the light of day.
Usually not. Sometimes your second doesn't. Sometimes your third doesn't. And hey, if people do it, awesome. Some people one-shot it.
Yeah.
But it's I think that the most important thing in terms of creative circles is be around people who are secure enough that they can accept feedback and critique, and they seek it out. They tell you when they want it. So that now's an appropriate time to give it. And you can, because it like, okay, they took it. And like, I ask people for feedback, because then when I give people feedback, I'm not doing anything I didn't ask for myself. Like, you've seen how I respond to it. And so I think personally, it's, if somebody catches something and you kick yourself, it's like, we've all been there. It's fostering an environment where the people who are giving you feedback, you truly believe they have your back, and they they know what you want, they understand what you need, and they are truly supportive. They're not telling you something to mess with you. They're not trying to turn you into something you don't want to be. That There's no substitute for that. And I do think the internet, with all of its hashtags and trends, does separate people from that, because God, Reddit, BookTube, those are all chasing algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
Social media is chasing algorithms. You're not getting the best opinions. You're getting the ones that enraged, or
You're not getting the best opinions. You're getting the popular ones.
yeah, because the best opinions, people are like, I'm not going to give that away for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, you have to focus your attention on the people who deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard if you hate yourself, going back to that self-loathing thing.
Oh, yeah.
You can't make good choices about people if you hate yourself. Yeah.
That is very true.
That's probably a good place to stop. So the map for Calidus Chronicles Volume 2. Hey, we talked about Calidus Chronicles right before we stopped. So
yes,
please, if you can, kick some money to Songs Ko-fi. If it's already funded by the time we get here, please just kick her money anyway. There's lots of stuff she could use the support for. And, if you're a regular listeners of Two Women Talking, this is the absolutely best way you can support. We appreciate the comments. We love the discussion, but, money.
I got 99 problems and money would solve all of them.
Yeah, money would solve all of them. So until next time, when we're gonna have a guest with us, it's gonna be like Three Women Talking next time. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But until then, I'm Leanna Kersner, Tomboy.
I am Song W. Erickson, Girly Girl.
And Song, as usual, you have the last word.
We were all over the place today, but I think it's really important to be aware of what you're looking for in a person, whether it's as a friend or a partner. And because I think if you know what it is you want and what you're looking for, it will help you avoid a lot of those red flags.